my advice is to people that are running these arts organizations, don't feel afraid to ask for money. It is not a handout. It is not a handout. You are not begging. You are asking for an investment to change people's lives.
I'm here today talking with Justin Miller. This is episode 2 in our series with him. And today we're excited to talk about how to make ensembles work and at an administrative level. So let's dive in. Justin, a lot of people know you as a musical director, and they're not aware that you've been involved in choir leadership in different roles. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've done, and then we're going to get into what you think are important things to think about in that role?
For sure. So when I began in ensemble leadership, it was not musical, it was administrative. For those familiar with the Westminster Chorus, they may know that I was not the founding director. In fact, I was the third director in that organization. And during the tenure of Royce Ferguson, who was the previous director than me, I was the president of the Westminster Chorus. And at that same time, I was also a member of another ensemble in the greater LA area called the Masters of Harmony. And while I was president of the Westminster Chorus, I was a board member at large for the Masters of Harmony. So I've worn a number of leadership hats from both musical and administrative. And actually, there was a very crazy time when during Westminster when the current president had to step down. He was like going through a divorce. He was like, I really can't do this right now. And it was at an awkward time when no one else was stepping up. So I was like, I was president before. I'll be president again and director at the same time. And that was a fun couple of years that my wife really enjoyed.
I can imagine that. Yeah. Do you have a tendency to bite off too much, Justin?
Used to, yes. I have learned, and this is a skill. This is like, I know a lot of people that have learned this over time, but saying no is a skill to be learned. And for me, I learned it by force. And what I mean by that is there was that weird period where I was both president and director of Westminster. And it's not like the presidentship was ripped out from me. I happily gave it back. But in that same time frame, I was still doing a lot of other administrative stuff, kind of leading the music team and section leaders and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm trying to think what year it was relevant, but a year or two after that, other people that kind of saw the stress I was under and the pressure I was putting on myself, my kind of good friends within the organization, said, we're taking this from you. And it was delightful to finally, but it kind of took other people and friends and colleagues seeing the freneticness in which I was doing things to say, like, you know what, it would be better for the organization if he didn't have to do all this.
Right.
And since then, and once we started Vocal Summit and we became part of the Portland, Oregon Barbershop Harmony Society chapter, then I've been quite good at being like, here's what I think should happen.
Right. Yeah. And
go do it.
Yeah. Not getting too much further into it.
Yeah.
At least in my memory, the Masters of Harmony were always known as a very well-organized, well-managed group. I remember, if you win international in a chorus, a lot of the time you do a session the following year explaining all about yourself and how you make things work. What do you think were some of the, if you can remember back to then, some of the keys that made that organization work well?
Part of it was the founding of the ensemble was very, I would describe it as military.
That's with Greg Line?
Yes, and even predating Greg. But around that time, this would be the late 80s, early 90s. So, Los Angeles is known very much as like Hollywood, but from an industry standpoint, it's also kind of home to a lot of military industrial complex type businesses, Boeing, Raytheon, all sorts of these types of things. And there are a number of those kind of engineer-minded former military men, lawyers, that did a lot of their bylaws and the way they run their board meetings with action items and accountability that made things run very smoothly, so that when later down the line, if there was a decision that needed to be made, it was often in reference to a precedent that happened earlier. So they were very, militant, legal, very kind of company men minded in the way they did things to make them successful. And the other thing that, and I'm not sure which is the chicken and which is the egg here, but culture. the culture of, well, their catchphrase, their slogan, their motto was dedicated to musical excellence, excellence being the key. And when I was a singer in the group, the director was a guy by the name of Mark Hale. For those that are not affiliated with the Barbershop Harmony Society, that might be listening to this. That director, Mark, said what he loved about the organization was everybody, no matter what their job was, they lived by that mantra. They lived by that mantra of dedicated to musical excellence or dedicated to blank excellence, from whomever was responsible for being the greeter when people walked in the door, from whoever was the person that stepped off the risers 10 minutes early before break to brew a pot of coffee. All of those things people held with respect, and that was their job. They held it with pride, and they did it with that goal in mind. That was the culture of that organization. So again, which was which? Was it the administrative, very cut and dry manner in which they ran things? Did that foster the culture of excellence, or was it this idea that everything was excellence and everyone came together for the greater good, that then led to, if we really want to be excellent, we need to run our organization like it's a business, you know? And I don't know the answer to that question, but that was the culture that established. Yeah.
I think it's really important to pay attention to culture like that, and to take care of it, to make sure the culture is what you need it to be, and to have a way, like you said, they had that slogan. I think having a way to quickly remind everybody in the organization, like this, what the culture is, and it so helps to guide so many decisions that would otherwise require discussion, require debate, all of that.
You mentioned maybe it was right then or earlier, but like sticky situations, and I think oftentimes in a musical nonprofit, and people are volunteering their time, they're not necessarily being compensated. So sometimes they feel like perhaps more ownership or more ability to kind of speak out, and sometimes that can make waves. And what was really great about Masters was a very clear organizational flow, where it was very clear when someone came into the organization what the organizational structure was, who reported to who. If you have a suggestion that would be made, who do you talk to about it? This was the days before things like Slack and Facebook, Facebook groups and things like that, where people could use different organizational methods for communication. This was like there was just an email listserv,
right?
And that was new, but there was clear guidelines of, hey, if you're going to use this, this is the type of thing that you can write.
Yeah, makes sense.
So if you don't just write anything willy-nilly. So those types of guardrails were really great for that organization for when conflict happened. They had the structures in place to deal with it already, rather than, oh my gosh, this is happening, how do we deal with this? Now, some rough things happen every now and then that you couldn't foresee with a organizational flow chart, but still I found that clarity really helped. And now that I'm thinking about it, they also had, when you became a member of the group, or when you came to audition, they had a document that told you all the steps of the audition process, that had, once you passed your audition, here are the next steps of things that you needed to do to assimilate, for lack of a better term, into the culture of the group. You were given a mentor, you were given a job other than just singer. Some of it was, hey, you're new and you're physically able, please get here early to help set up risers.
Right.
That's kind of a way. I know another Barbershop Harmony Society chapter of the Vocal Majority out of Dallas, Texas, they have a similar thing where to kind of earn your medal, to earn your keep, you're on riser duty for a while. But there are other jobs that people could do. You could be a librarian, you could be responsible, you could be, if you have marketing skills, you'd be a webmaster, all those sorts of things. But everyone got a job as soon as they became a member, whether it be big or small, to help with the culture, to help bring them in, to help them recognize that they were part of something bigger than themselves.
That's very cool. You touched on communication, and I'd love to talk about that a little bit. I think there's so many aspects of communication that help to make sure that even if you've got your culture in place and you've got this organized structure, that people, old and new, know what it is and know what to do at any given moment, so the chaos is kept to a minimum. How do your groups manage communication with your various constituencies?
So, although I'm not directing Westminster anymore, I'm still on their Slack channel. So they have Slack. My current Chorus Vocal Summit, we also use a Slack channel in collaboration with the other ensemble in the Portland chapter, a group called PDX Voices. So we use Slack for a variety of things. And within that tool, there's a number of channels. So there's a channel where people can just talk about their families and, hey, my daughter's getting married, or hey, I just got a puppy, or it's my son's graduation, or I just had a baby, whatever that happens to be. They can talk about that and build some community in that regard.
Like a social chat kind of a chat.
Yeah, there's one of those, and I think that's healthy to help build the community and to help bring the organization together as not just workers, volunteers, employees, but as people, as friends, as colleagues, as extended family. Each section has its own subchat. And one thing that I do as director is encourage that after rehearsal that people go into their various channels and debrief their rehearsal to kind of, this was a light bulb that went off for me, or this is something that happened that I think we should all remember. And then, there's a number of leadership channels within there. There's one for the board of directors. There's one for, we don't call it the board of directors. It's the ensemble management team because there's a larger chapter organizational structure. But there's an ensemble management team. There's a music team, which is section leaders and other kind of artistically minded people. There's a leadership channel, which is both of those groups combined. So that's a really good way to do it. I mean, Slack is kind of I think there's a free version. It's limited, but there's so many tools like that. That's one of the good way, nowadays. Back in the day, Westminster had a Facebook group.
Right.
When that was cool and avant-garde.
So Justin, one of the other really important things about running an organization is always money and having those resources to make the art happen. How does that work in your organizations?
So in the circles that I run, the friendship circles that I run in, I have a number of friends in a variety of cities that are part of arts organizations, whether they be community organizations or professional organizations. I have a number of friends that are affiliated with the Los Angeles Master Chorale, for example. And what I understand is that there are close to zero, if not zero, arts organizations that are run off of ticket sales alone. It's just not the way anymore. Even if we can pack a house with our community choirs or community organizations, chances are it's still not enough to purchase the music, to have rental space for our rehearsal hall, pay any employees that they may have, whether they be musical or administrative. So it's really important to create some sort of sponsor base for people that are donating to the organization. It's just simply a must. And I know for some, the idea of asking for donations or something like that sounds icky or feels icky to beg for money, but it's not, particularly if you know any people that are in an upper income bracket.
Yeah, I don't think people understand. I mean, people who can donate want to donate.
They want
money
to.
Feels great.
They love doing it. They love feeling helpful. And I know of a number of people that like singing, they like music, they like art, but they themselves do not feel musically inclined. How can they help out? Donating. So one of the things I didn't mention in my biography was in my years of teaching high school, the bulk of my career was at a private Catholic school in Southern California. Now, private school, the demographics of this school may be a little bit higher than your average organizations, and I understand that. But still, because it was a Catholic school, a Christian organization, they offered lots and lots and lots of scholarships because they wanted to help out the kind of poor and unfortunate, as Christianity often will say. We gave an annual holiday concert every year, and in this holiday concert, there was a dinner portion, and then there was a concert afterwards. There was a sponsorship program that went to go to the dinner. There was I don't exactly remember, let's say it was like $500 for 2 tickets, and you get some perks. It was then, I think $750 for 4 tickets, and then $1,000, and then $1,500 for like a whole table. $1,500 is a lot of money for 10 tickets for a high school choir event. Yes, they got some additional perks, but we sold more of the $1,500 price point than we did like the $250 or $500 or whatever it was. Because those people that saw the benefit of their students, their children, their community, of what the choir program did for them, of what that particular concert how it made them feel, they were writing checks left and right. So all that needs to be done is to, no, there might be some work that needs to be done in searching some of these people down, but it doesn't take hard to convince someone when you are as passionate about choral music, about barbershop, about music in general, about community art, about budding artists, about creating this community. It is not hard for someone that is passionate about those types of things to inspire and convince somebody else to help out, because we know how it makes us feel. We know how our lives have been changed because of our participation in this field, in this art, in this community. We know of the studies that have been done of choirs that sing together. When they start singing together and they start breathing synchronously, that their hearts start to beat in tandem. They become one community, they become one organism, they become one family. It is not hard to convince people to donate a little bit of money, particularly when that's what they love to do. They love to be philanthropic. They've worked hard their whole lives, and now they're at a point where they can go, yes, I get to help you out. So my advice is to people that are running these arts organizations: don't feel afraid to ask for money. It is not a handout. It is not a handout.
They're
You are
getting value
not
in return,
begging.
no question.
Yeah, you're asking for an investment to change people's lives.
That was episode 2 of my conversation with Justin Miller. If you got value from this video, please click the like button. And if you want to be notified when future episodes drop, or indeed other episodes on this channel, subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon.